Hey guys, my name is Sarah. I've been a healthcare traveler for 3 years now, which is wild. I have lived in a tiny house, in an Airstream travel trailer, and a camper van, and now I'm living on a tiny little island, and it's been a wild ride. So I kind of wanted to bring it full circle today and tell you guys my story. So a lot of you guys have been with me since my Airstream days, and thank you so much for staying on this journey with me. It truly has been a wild ride, and I can't believe I have made it 3 years traveling full time. It has been amazing in so many ways, and I'm so grateful for this lifestyle, all of the experiences I've had, and all of the people that I've met along the way. I had no idea that I wanted to travel until I went through X-ray school and became a technologist, and I started meeting travelers coming through my department, and that is when I discovered what travel healthcare is. It sounded amazing, and so I set my mind to it. I got 2 years of experience as a CT technologist and started my travel journey in California. But before we talk about that, I do want to backtrack to my life before traveling. I was born in Connecticut, and I lived there till I was 9 years old. My parents were divorced at a very young age, and my mom took me and my brother to Tennessee, where we lived for 7 years. My mom and I just wanted a fresh start. My brother wanted to stay in Tennessee, so my mom and I picked up and moved down to Florida. Florida is where I spent my last year of high school, all of my years of college, and that's where I started my career. That's where I got my wonderful dog, Rue, which I will be reunited with so soon, and I am so excited. And yeah, it's kind of where I just was growing up and learning who I am as a young adult. So that's where I tell people home is, although now that I've been traveling for 3 years and I've discovered what mountains are, and so has Rue, I think Florida doesn't feel like home anymore. So it's really hard for me when people ask where I'm from or where home is, because I really have bounced around to a lot of different places for my entire life, but I am on a mission to find my new home. I think travel will always be a big part of me, and even if I do decide to settle down one day, I am constantly going to be taking trips, or I'm going to live somewhere where I feel that I can still travel throughout that state and have lots of fun adventures. So going back to living in Florida, I was there for 7 or 8 years total, and once I got my 2 years of experience as a CT technologist, I told my boyfriend at the time that I was leaving to go travel, and he was welcome to join me if he wanted to. He was a phlebotomist and medical assistant at the time, and he got his first travel gig in Vallejo. I told him to take the offer and that I would find something nearby, so I told my recruiter that I needed a job in San Francisco. The reason we ended up in that area is because the pay was great. California is known for the highest pay rates in travel healthcare. So I did find a job in San Francisco. It was at UCSF, which is an amazing hospital. I learned so much. I actually did a lot better than they expected me to. My interview was extremely intimidating. It was about 2 hours long, and the supervisor was telling me that it's a terrible first assignment, that I was in over my head, that I wouldn't be able to keep up. As soon as I started, they ended up being very impressed with me, and it ended up being a very good assignment in the professional aspect. But in my personal life, that was one of the hardest times of my life. I had no idea what I was getting myself into going to San Francisco in the summertime. It was freezing, it was foggy. I had to take public transit to work every day because we only had one vehicle, so my ex was taking it over to Vallejo. And so I dealt with living in a city for the first time. And not only a city, but the city of San Francisco. If you've ever been there, you know it's just different. And it was very overwhelming for me. And I was also going through a lot of relationship issues at the time. We ended up cutting things off kind of in the middle of our assignment while we were still living together. So that was just such a hard time for me in so many ways. First travel gig is always the hardest. And this one just was testing me in many, many ways. But once my ex and I split up, he took travel assignments elsewhere, and I took one down in Gilroy, California. It's about an hour and a half south of San Francisco, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful time in my life. I got to move into a tiny house that was just the coolest living experience ever. It's kind of what sparked my interest in the Airstream and van life and just like any type of tiny living. So that was on 5 acres of land, and I got to bring Rue with me. She was taken care of by the owners of the property while I was at work. They had about 5 other dogs. The owners took care of me like I was a kid of their own, and I just felt so cozy and at home on this property. The hospital was small, low volume, low stress, and I had an amazing schedule that gave me 5 consecutive days off every other week. So I got to do a lot of traveling throughout California during this time. I went to Pinnacles National Park. I spent a lot of time in Santa Cruz, Monterey, Big Sur. I got to go over to the mountains and explore Lake Tahoe and Reno and Yosemite. I never made it to Sequoia because there were a lot of fires at the time, but ultimately I got an amazing California experience. I got to explore lots of nooks and crannies and learn how to travel independently and be happy by myself. It was really a transformative time of my life. I lived there for 9 months total, and this is the time of my life where I decided that I wanted to purchase an Airstream because I was independent and could make my own decisions, and it sounded like a great investment at the time. Instead of throwing all of my money away into rent, I got to put it into something that I owned. So I drove up to Oregon and I picked up my Airstream and I brought it back down to California, and I moved into it. I learned how to live in it, and I got to stay on the same property that the tiny house was on. Just getting through those first few days of picking up my Airstream, towing it back down to California, moving into it, learning how to live in it, it was such a huge confidence booster. It really showed me my self-worth and that I am truly capable of anything I put my mind into. And it was cool to see how many of you it inspired who may have been afraid of that lifestyle, but saw this tiny little girl doing it and they're like, oh shoot, if she can do it, I can do it too. Although I will say in the beginning, it was really difficult because when I had that first video of me going to pick it up that completely blew up, there were so many hateful comments. And I know that that's just something that comes along with being a YouTuber or a content creator. But that's when I had like 30 subscribers, okay? I posted this video and all of a sudden there's like 10,000 people following me, and then, you know, hundreds of thousands of people watching this video and tons of hateful comments saying that I didn't know what I was doing, that I wasn't capable, that I was going to kill someone. So already I was in this state of, can I do this? And I had a lot of people telling me that I couldn't. So that was really hard. The internet is such a mean place. I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue posting YouTube videos after that. But then I realized how many positive comments there were, and how positive of an influence that I could be for people who were considering this lifestyle. So ultimately, I decided to continue with my YouTube channel, and I'm so glad that I did, because now I am at 30,000 subscribers, which is so crazy. I can't believe there's that many of you, so thank you. So after my assignment ended in California, I took 6 weeks off traveling in my Airstream. I went to Yosemite, where I got to hang out with a dear friend that was working there at the time. I went to Lake Tahoe, Crater Lake, the Columbia River Gorge, and then I arrived to Washington, which is where I did my third travel healthcare assignment. Washington is honestly such a special place to me after getting to spend about 6 months there working and living in my Airstream. It was such a special time in my life where I got to meet so many kindred spirits. I made a ton of friends. I went on so many amazing adventures. And it's just a time that I hold very dear in my life. And I know that my heart is drawing me back to that place. So hopefully I can make it back there soon. I did create a video about the summertime that I spent in Washington that I will link above. And there's honestly videos going throughout this entire story that I'm telling you guys today. If you want to go back and binge watch, you are more than welcome to. I'm kind of sad that I didn't stay longer, but I do know that I'm right where I should be and everything is happening as it should. I actually decided to leave because I was in the process of purchasing my new camper van and selling my Airstream, and my camper van was not cheap. So I took an assignment back down in California that was paying really well so that I could help pay for my van. And I think this is one of the greatest life lessons I've ever learned, is to follow your heart, not the money. Everything really does happen for a reason, but I felt so sad and just heartbroken leaving Washington and going back to the same town in California that I had left a previous life behind. I felt like I had evolved so much as a human being in Washington, and I was just the best version of myself. I was happier than ever. And just because I needed more money, I decided to leave and go back to somewhere that is in the past for a reason. So it felt really weird being back there, facing some old demons, if you will, because I totally got my heart broken on that assignment. That's just some of the dirty details that I don't normally share on social media. We only really share and talk about the good things, but there have been so many hardships and difficult goodbyes that I have faced as a traveler. The good has outweighed the bad, and I do say it is so worth it. Go through the good parts, go through the bad parts, because that's just what makes us who we are. And it makes us stronger on the other end. So all of the good and bad, traveling has been worth it for me. I sold my Airstream, I rented a room in California, and then as soon as I was done with that quick assignment, I took like 4 months off. I traveled from California to Michigan, living out of my Jeep Grand Cherokee at the time, and I got to move into my new camper van. It was a lot of work to get that camper van. I get a lot of comments saying like, what do your parents do for work? And trust fund baby and all that kind of stuff. And holy cow, I cannot describe to you guys like what a process it was to get that van. It didn't come easy to me, and it was a lot of work. So it felt very emotional and accomplishing when I finally did pick it up and get to move into it. I was hired by Drifter Vans as a consultant, so now I am still doing consultations. If people are interested in buying vans, I do Zoom calls. I walk them through the entire process, the financing, which finally exists now, thank goodness. I just refinanced my van and it is so much more doable now. I won't get into those details. There's so many videos on all of that. But after living out of my van for 4 months, just communicating with people through screens, I realized I was very unhappy. So I decided to go back to healthcare. I was in the Northeast at the time, visiting family. I have a ton of family in Connecticut, so I spent a lot of time there and just all throughout the Northeast. So I decided to take an assignment in upstate New York, very close to the Adirondacks, and I would say that has been my second favorite assignment yet. That's assignment number 5. Assignment number 5. I instantly felt so much better being in a hospital, working with physical patients, physical humans. It was so nice. I felt that I had a purpose and a sense of belongingness because I was needed at a local hospital. So I did realize that kind of just floating around in a van was unfulfilling for me. I needed a purpose. I found someone's property to live on in my van and worked at the hospital at the time. I only worked 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts, so it was the ideal schedule for adventure. I got to spend a lot of time traveling throughout Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And being close to the Adirondacks felt pretty magical to me, especially in the fall with all of the beautiful foliage. And there were hiking trails galore. Within a short driving distance, they weren't crowded at all. It's exactly what I needed in my life at the time. I also made a very good friend during this time, and it has been one of my hardest goodbyes to date. So there's another caveat to traveling, is making really good friends and always having to say goodbye. I know it's possible to keep in contact via phone, but sometimes it's just not the same as being with someone in person. And that is how I felt about this situation. But everyone comes into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. That's a quote that my best friend always uses, and man, has it gotten me through some tough goodbyes. But I'm super grateful for the time that I got to spend in upstate New York and the connections that I made. And just being in the Northeast in general, I got to spend a lot of time with family. And then after that, I took some time off for the holidays and I headed down to Florida to visit my mom and my brother, who is now living there as well. And I spent the month of December there. I was still living in my van at the time, and I was contemplating this new job opportunity that was presented to me by my friend, who was a traveler in Hawaii. I told myself I would never ever take a travel assignment in Hawaii. And I decided that I've been doing this for almost 3 years. I'm not sure how much longer I will be doing it for. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I have a good friend who lives out here that I can explore the island with, and everything made sense except for leaving Rue behind. And even though she would be staying with family, I truly felt like I was abandoning her. And I still, I try my best not to be regretful with any decisions I make in life, because that's no way to live your life. But a part of me has a really hard time accepting the fact that I decided to leave my dog for so long, because 4 months is a long time, and she's my best friend, and we have been together since she was 9 weeks old. And it's been really hard without her. I've had some really hard times in Hawaii, and I've also had some really great times in Hawaii, but it's been a weird experience out here, man. It's not what I expected. It's been really wonderful and really awful, if that makes any sense. So this is travel assignment number 6 that I'm on right now. And I kind of came out here for several reasons. One of them being just to distance myself from my life as I know it. I was getting a little burnt out from living in the van, and I wanted a change of pace. I wanted to just kind of get that matter of perspective to see what I want to do with my life moving forward. Because honestly, guys, I'm not going to live in a van forever. I mean, I love it. I love traveling in it, but as a full-time living situation, I know that it's not going to be feasible long-term for me, and that I do need to figure something else out. I do have some really exciting plans for when I get back to the mainland. I'm hoping we're going to make it up to the Canadian Rockies this summer. That's the plan, and many other things in between. But I think Hawaii has given me the perspective to realize that van life for me needs to be an enjoyable vacation travel experience. So I'm gonna be taking time off of work and be living and traveling in the van. But when I take my next assignment, I don't know if I'm gonna do that, or if I'm going to rent a room or a place, or I don't know. I'm figuring it all out as I go. And that's just a big reason I came out here, was to kind of like distance myself from it for a little bit and see, am I happier in this living situation, or am I happier in that living situation? And I think it just depends on where I'm at in life. If I'm working at the time, it is nice having like a stable place to live. But if I'm not working and I want to travel, then the van is where it's at. You don't have to rent hotels or Airbnbs. You don't have to worry about lodging. You can have everything with you wherever you go. You don't have to pack a suitcase. There's so many pros that, once again, plenty of videos on that, but I think Hawaii has given me that matter of perspective that I have been looking for, and that I am gonna know what to do moving forward. I am sorry that I haven't really posted any content about Hawaii. Really, I've just been hiking my butt off here and working my butt off here. The schedule is crap. I'm working 5 days a week plus 45 hours of call on average. And when I'm on call, I'm getting called in constantly. That is why I'm in scrubs right now. But it's been good money, so at least I'm saving for my future, and I'm saving for this time off. And I do get to explore a really beautiful island on my days off. I've just definitely had a creative block when it comes to creating videos about my time out here. That is why I'm here today, sharing my story with you and just showing you where I'm at in my life right now. And I thank you all so much for caring and making it to this point in the video and just being on this journey with me. I can't wait to hop back in the van in less than a month and be back with my baby girl, Rue. Sorry for getting emotional back there, but I miss her so much. It truly has been a wild ride. And I know it's gonna continue to be a roller coaster with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, because what would life be without those? They really do shape us into who we are, and I feel like a completely different person than who I was when I first started traveling. I will always be incredibly grateful for these experiences, truly. Thank you guys so much for being here and joining me on this incredible journey. I am very thankful for each and every one of you. I will see you guys next time.